have questionable political representation. How's that? Reserve County. About how the money got allocated. It seemed like, gee, a lot of it went someplace and it didn't go someplace else. But that was in the original legislation, and that was one of the things that a lot of people complained about, because then a lot of it went to, then when we went to table games, a lot of it went to, stadiums and this is and that is, and so, but that was, it was supposed to be. I think the real cheat was, that was in the original legislation. And if people knew about it, they knew about it. Where the real deal got changed is when we brought table games in, and we didn't say, okay, we're going to allocate some of that here and some of that there, but the bulk of it's going to go to property tax reduction. The bulk of that is going into the pie and not going to, the deal that you were sold when we adopted gaming was that it was going to be for property tax reduction. And I know it's not fun to watch money go someplace else, but a lot of that money is being made up in that area, and they do have traffic impacts and some impacts like we do. But that was in the legislation, and it is what it is.
Well, I mean, I just question on where some of that money went to.
Yeah.
For granting a building. I mean, this, to me, is not right.
Well, as we go forward with this Marcellus impact money, and people from across the state find out what we're doing with it, they're going to be as happy as you are right now. Sir.
Dick Bradley from Hughesville. And in correspondence you and I had, which I appreciate very much, you had said that you were going to introduce or reintroduce cyber charter school legislation. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what the issue is and what that legislation may look like.
It's pretty comprehensive. My co-sponsored memo is going out tomorrow. I've been working with the Pennsylvania School Board Association, and what's the association of the business managers called? PASBO. With the to develop, because a lot of it has to do with economics, so you want the business managers involved. Thanks, Charlie. And we think it's going to be good legislation. Now, whether it's marketable, we'll see. I think it's really good. One of the things. Go ahead.
I just wanted to
just tell everybody who you are. So
I'm Mike Pollock. I'm the superintendent at East Lycoming. Okay. Cyber schools aren't a flashy issue like some other issues are, but keeping upon the theme, sir, that you started, where's that money going? Yeah. I don't think people realize how that impacts. I'm sorry. How that impacts our local district. We're approaching almost $500,000 for cyber school expenditures for about 45 students. Putting that in perspective, that's basically about the first $92 that every property tax owner in East Lycoming pays goes right out the door to cyber schools. And it's really something that has to be looked at. I appreciate exchanging those emails from a number of standpoints. Number one, there's something that they're allowed to carry called unlimited fund balances, where they're carrying $14, $15, $18 million of unexpended funds from 1 year to the next year. This governance structure is such that they can basically appoint themselves to positions on the board, pay whatever salary they so choose to pay, and that's certainly acceptable. They can use our district dollars to advertise to increase the number of students that go to cyber schools. We have approximately a little over 40 students in cyber schools. 40% of those students never touched foot in East Lycoming School building. They've actually come to the district in a cyber school, have never been in our school district. And it's a concern because basically that's costing us 7.5 teacher salaries. And it's not a flashy issue, but it really has a large impact. And so anything you can do for that, for us, we certainly appreciate.
I'm going to sponsor the bill and see if we can get it going. Like I said, it's one of the things that's frustrating for me. I mean, I saw this build up before I was doing the state representative thing. I was a solicitor for East Lycoming School District and for Montgomery School District, and you could see this building over time. It wasn't that big a deal in the beginning, but then the bleeding really started. And I mean, it's bad for East Lycoming, but it seems like even the smaller the district is, the the more the hemorrhaging is. Sullivan County just get crushed, their school district, because their budget is just relatively that much smaller, and they get in a bunch of cyber students, and it's just, yeah, it's out of control. And some of these cyber schools are, they're for-profits. A lot of them are structured as not-for-profits, as Superintendent Pollack said, but still, just because you're a not-for-profit doesn't mean that you're not paying administrators and board members and who knows who a lot of money. And that's not what education's about. Education's about educating kids, and this is just one area. It sounded, I mean, I don't think any of the folks from East Lycoming here that represent you and work for you on the school board would say that cyber schools are a bad thing. Cyber schools aren't a bad thing. They're just out of control, and we need to get them under control. And I'm going to do, you know, I'm working hard on it. I worked hard on it over the summer, and we think we have a really good bill that addresses the issues and still treats cyber schools fairly, so that they can do that. I mean, I've been to a lot of I've been to places where there's families that are homeschooling their kids, and they're using a combination of cyber schools and parent groups together, and they're doing a good job educating their kids, and that's great. And I don't think any of us have a complaint about that kind of thing. It's just the tuitions in some of them are just crazily off the wall. And I'm going to do what I can to fix it. And thank you for explaining it, because it's hard.
Sir?
Yes.
I'm Dean Marshall. I'm from the very northern tip of Columbia County, and I'm not in your district,
okay,
but I recreate on the Loyal Sock. I was even up there last Labor Day when the creek was fouled from the pipeline construction for 4 solid days with some kind of green slime, which DEP told me was just nothing to worry about. And I'm not the only one that called in or videotaped it. And I was going to ask you questions about how you feel about the bass population in the river, and how the Fish and Boat Commission has lobbied your office and Gene Yaw and everybody connected all the way down the river to have the river declared as impaired. But that would stop the gas drillers from sucking billions of gallons of water out of the river as soon as that declaration was made. So DEP is saying, well, we don't believe that there's any problem with it. Well, I was going to ask you about that, but you brought something up before about your
You're not asking me about it.
I'm not going to ask you about that. Your contributors, though, you said were mostly local people, a little money from the gas. And I have, from your 2008, right here, top 20 contributors was Pennsylvania Bar Association, PP&L, Pennsylvania Rural Electric Association, McGurney, Page, Vanderlyn and Hall, Pennsylvania Builders, Anadarko Petroleum, Energy Resources Group, PAC, the Brotherhood Aimed Towards Education in Pennsylvania, Blue Cross, UGI Utilities, First Energy Corporation, and freaking Aqua America. So, do you want to recant that statement you made that most of your contributions?
I didn't even run a campaign. I didn't even ask for those. They just sent them in the mail.
But you took the money from the energy industry, and you still do.
Thank you. You asked me a question. I'll tell you who my 5 biggest contributors are: Blaze Alexander, Dan Klingerman, Herman Logue, Larry Allison Jr., Larry Allison Sr., J.R. Wolnick, let me think, and Jay Alexander, and that's about it. That's the highlights. Those are all local businessmen, and they give me money in magnitudes that embarrass me when I need it, and have nothing to do with those folks. Hey, the Hardwoods Association gives me money. You know, the recycling coal people send me a check, unsolicited. You know, I don't send them back. I put them in. That's it. Ralph.
Mine's Ralph Gisberg. I'm from Williamsport. Just as, you know, maybe not everybody in this area of the county knows, but those 5 people, you got Larry Allison, crane rigging and water trucks. Dan Klingerman, water truck, and you know, I'm not trying to imply anything. I'm just saying,
mainly hotels and restaurants,
right. But hotels, restaurants, water truck. I mean, you got all these people, right? Construction, Herman Lowe, Hawbaker. It's not you. I'm not complaining about you. It's these people run things in this county, you know. And what happened to these people? This isn't the America we all know. That you have a home in the middle of the country, and all of a sudden these guys come in and you have bad water, that, what, are you gonna be able to sell that home? You have constant worry about your family. So I'm just trying to say, we gotta do something about, there's 30 homes in, Moreland Township that got hit by, is anybody here from that area? I mean.
Well, he's talking about the other.
Yeah, where the
the other one.
thing, I mean.
And how many homes total are there in Moreland Township? So look at how many are affected by bad actors, as you said, that are supposed to be taken care of by legislation, and instead have the power to go to DEP in Harrisburg and have entire notification procedures changed because they didn't like the determination that the DEP made on how these wells were contaminated. And I still have not gotten the determination because Range Resources had the power to hold it up.
Yeah, and I agree the system's not working, and it's going to
This
have
is a year now.
It's going to have
more
to
than
be
a year for these folks.
It's going to have to be legislative.
Every time I draw water out, it looks like I poured it out of a soda bottle.
And my determination is that it has to be legislatively changed because administratively it's not working right now. That's
It's clear as a bell.
Yep.
It's clear as a bell that administratively, the gas companies carry too much power.
When this all started 2 years ago with these things, we were told, this would happen. If it does, we'll take care of it. Now it's happened, and in our case, Range Resources, not us, gotta be the other guy. The only problem is their well's the closest one to us.
yeah. But the part that I'm agreeing with you, by the way. The part that I don't like about it is the way that DEP is saying, well, we're going to turn the investigation over to the company to do, and that just doesn't.
That's not what they've done.
That's not what they've done. DEP's been investigating along with the company.
Right, but they turn the remediation determinations, and it just seems the company's too involved, rather than DEP just saying, here's what you're going to do. It just seems that I think I'm agreeing with you that the company has too much sway into
It seems
the whole process.
But I mean,
Looking from the outside,
we're just talking middle.
I agree, and you shouldn't be.
The thing is, I was able to make
DEP
phone calls and make contact with people that you couldn't make contact with, that you already knew.
I made contact with them, I just didn't feed back to you as my failure was. My thing is that I think that that you shouldn't have to be contacting Range Resources. DEP should be taking care of all of that. They're the Department of Environmental
taking
Protection.
care of that. We requested through DEP, the Range Resources, we have met with DEP.
Agreed.
We have met with Scott Harris.
Right.
Okay?
And what's happened?
And they're in the process of investigating. They're working with Range Resources, trying to get some sort of settlement. Right now, Range Resources is digging their heels in and saying, it's not us, we're not going to settle. It may possibly go to court. So here we are, we're caught now for the next few years till whatever, while Range Resources says, oh, it's not us. I mean, like we stated in that meeting, none of us were against this.
Yeah.
I mean, with what it brought into the economy and so on, but we were told, we're responsible, we'll take care of it. And Range Resources lied.
The government won't help.
I'm saying we, because it wasn't the legislation. I wasn't going to be the prime sponsor of it. We were going to put a system in place, and I think that's what I'm still going to have to do, where DEP just takes care of it out of the impact fee fund or something. Takes care of you. That you don't have to wait forever.
Well,
and then they go find.
Range Resources was cited for proper cement on this well site. And DEP can't come back in and make Range do something.
But my point is, why should you have to care? Your water's been impaired. DEP takes care of it. Then they take to whoever they have to take to court and get the money back to whatever it was.
I've already been asked if this goes to court if I would testify, which I stated yes, I would.
Yeah, I mean, isn't there a reasonable amount of time that your water should have been remediated, taken care of?
Yes.
Not
as soon as they found out.
And I'm agreeing with you. That's what I'm saying. And then they can fight that battle later about whose fault it was. If they have to, if there was, 3 companies that were drilling around you and they're all denying, let DEP fix it, and then let DEP go take whoever they need to take to court to get the money back to put your wells back.
One thing that I understand from a friend of mine who was impacted at the other end of Moreland Township is that that company came in and said, we're not going to say we're a fault, sir, but we're going to take care of it for now and take care of it.
Right.
We'll put a system in your house at our expense and we'll maintain it. And they did do that. And this friend of mine said, you know, he said, I thought I had it rough. He said, then after I talked to you guys and sat in on the meeting, you guys said, I said, I had it pretty good lucky.
But different company.
There's different companies.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Here about 6 months ago, with DEP, they were starting to push it, but in Harrisburg, got stopped.
Right, and that's the process. I'm agreeing with you. The process is broken right now.
Is there any people that don't want to do, you know, anything about it?
Well, and the fact of the matter is that Michael Kranzer,
That's really not issues.
the head of DEP, is in fact an appointment of the Corbett administration, and he came from the gas and oil industry. He came from Exelon.
They're all owned by the
He's
gas.
currently trying to ensure that the Susquehanna is
you know,
designated as unimpaired in
Yeah,
order
we
to
can get
allow
back-
more
and
drilling.
that's a question you didn't ask me. You can ask, but
Well, I'm answering him.
He wasn't. You don't get to do that. You can have a meeting someplace.
Really? Yeah, I believe you allowed
Ma'am,
him to talk out of turn.
Ma'am,
He spoke out of turn, and so did I.
do you want to stay or do you want to leave?
You would throw me out.
Absolutely. If you're not going to follow the rules and you're going to just run this meeting, it's not going to happen in my meeting.
I see, so that gentleman can run the meeting,
He's
and
one of
I'm
my,
with him.
Excuse me. He's a constituent. You're a guest.
Oh, I
okay?
see. That's the difference, although I'm in Pennsylvania. I live in Pennsylvania.
Why do you have to come and try people's patience like this? I allow you to speak in a place you're not even invited to. I invited
It's a public meeting.
has a right to know that
It's a public
DEP
meeting.
You can
will
have
not
your meeting
protect him.
outside, okay? I just get tired of you walking in here and trying to take these. I want to meet with my constituents. That's what I'm doing, okay? You want to meet with my constituents? You guys have a meeting with my constituents and see how many of them show up.
That's right. I'll agree with you.
Sir.
Cam Coons from Leyersville.
Hi, Kim.
Two-part question on pensions.
Sure.
One, I know there's talk in the paper, you know, it's ballooning out of hand in Harrisburg with your pie. And it's also ballooning out of control with our school districts. I mean, this
Right.
year it's up to almost 1.5 million, projected to be 2 million next year, so property taxes are gonna have to go every year to cover pensions. And you feel that something can be done this year to curtail it? Slow it
I just,
down?
before I came over tonight, I was typing an email, saying very similar. I'm getting a lot of very similar questions, but this had a lot like your question. And I think it's incumbent that we do something this year. 2 years ago, we kicked this can down the road, and that's what's, you know, we have the escalating property tax thing. You know, I don't know what the magic bullet is, but we need to, you know, this year, if we just do another Band-Aid, we're just pushing this down the road. It's going to get more expensive and more expensive. You know, we can talk all day about how we got there, how we got here. We're here. There's no use pointing fingers at anybody. So I'm going to insist that we stay in Harrisburg. We have to stay all summer and address the issue. And you know, and it doesn't, you know, and it doesn't have anything to do with bashing teachers or bashing state employees who've already qualified for the pensions. It's not their fault. You know, they paid their percentage throughout the time that they were employees, whether they were, you know, cops, fire people, teachers, PennDOT, DEP, you name it. You know, we made a commitment to those folks that was going to be their deal. You know, if we want to talk about a going forward deal for new workers, but that doesn't, you know, that's what gets all mixed up, gets people all mixed up. Those are two wholly separate issues that have very little to do with each other. You know, and the thing, one of the questions that I got today from somebody is, well, you know, if we change the existing pension system, then they won't be paying into to pay the workers that are working. So, you know, that we definitely don't want to fall into a system like that, and then like where our Social Security and our Medicare is. Our pension systems are pension systems. They have a lot of money in them. They just don't have all the money that they need in them to work like real pension systems. And we're going to have to figure out how to fund that. And that may mean changing the size of that pie through some kind of revenue enhancement. And I mean, nobody wants to hear about taxes being increased, but you can't spend money that you don't have. We have a $44 billion unfunded liability. Now, we don't owe that money all next year. You know, we don't owe it in the next year. But each year we put off deciding how we're going to pay that unfunded liability, it just gets bigger. So, you know, I don't think that you're paying me to walk away from tough issues down in Harrisburg. And I'm not going to do it. Now, I'm not saying, again, I'm one of 203. I'm not saying that I can make this happen, but there's a lot of us that feel that we just can't walk away from this issue anymore, and we need to deal with it. And another issue that we need to deal with is we've underfunded our transportation infrastructure. That's not in this pie. It has its own pie, its own funding sources. But we've been walking away from that for a long time. And we live out in rural Pennsylvania where the bridges keep getting downgraded under weight limits or closed, and our roads are falling apart, and we use the roads, you know? So, you know, that's another issue that has been kicked down the road for 15, 20 years, and we just can't continue to do that one either. So, what was the second part of your question, Pete?
The second part was, last year, Senator or Representative Gregor introduced a bill that the state legislature would go on their own with a defined contribution.
Yeah,
which you co-sponsored, thank you.
Yeah.
And he's going to reintroduce it this
Right.
year. Are you going to?
I'm already. The co-sponsor memos, at the beginning of a new session, and we put a new computer system in that really works too well, it's really easy to put co-sponsor memos out now. So they've been flying like crazy, but yeah, I'm back on that bill. And you know, just a real quick deal on the whole legislature thing. You know, we passed a bill in the House last session to reduce the size of the legislature. I don't think we need 203 and 50. There's other legislatures in the country that have different ratios. And the other thing that I don't think, Pennsylvania has an expensive legislature. We have a lot of staff, and we're full-time. I don't think that we need to be a full-time legislature. I think that we need to be better focused when we're there on what we really need to do, and not spend time on things that we don't need to do, that are just, because we're there, we do. There's lots of other legislatures that are part-time, and I think we could do that. I don't think it needs to be a full-time job. I see it to be kind of a citizen, should be a citizen legislature. I think that's the way our legislatures were intended to be. I don't think that we need full-time politicians. I think we need term limits, and all those things. So, now, my colleagues who have been in the legislature for 20, 30 years don't have quite that same view, but I'll tell you, since just in the 6 years that I've been in, I went in the post midnight pay raise class. It was the largest legislative turnover ever, and we've had big turnovers because we're changing things down there, and some of the old guard doesn't like it. They don't think it's quite as fun as it used to be. Well, it's not supposed to be fun, and it's not supposed to be just cushy down there. We're down there to do work, then we should come home and do something else, you know. So anyway, I go on too long. Ma'am.
Yeah, would you comment on Obamacare and how you think things are coming, and you know how in the world's going to be enacted when they don't even know what they're doing?
Well, we're trying to figure. All I can comment on is our folks that are smart people that understand Medicaid and those issues are trying to sort through and advise us on what it all means still. And we still don't have all the guidance from the federal government about what it all means. And that's why we have not jumped in with both feet to the plan, because we're not sure how many billions of dollars we're committing ourselves to down the road. So we're kind of trying to take it as slow as we can and figure out what's good for Pennsylvania and sort through, because I mean, I can tell you, I mean, I'll admit when I don't understand something, I certainly can't wrap my head around the whole deal. And I have smart people writing me summaries of what it is, and they can't get their heads totally wrapped around it. So we're taking it slow, and we didn't jump in with our own state health exchange because we didn't even know what that meant because they hadn't told us yet. So, I mean, that's about all I can tell you is we're going to try to make sure that it makes sense before we throw ourselves off the cliff and and then find out later that we didn't have a parachute when we jumped. There's a lady been waiting behind us. Ma'am, and you are?
Allison Rupert from Penn Township up the other end of
Yeah.
Green Valley. I live about 1,200 feet from the Bartow compressor station. And I have a concern that I don't know if you're aware of or not, I just became aware of it myself. There was what they call a modeling study.
Just read the email today. First I heard about it.
And it's very concerning to me because as I sort through it, I don't really understand the technical aspect, but the conclusion of it is that the Bartow compressor site is emitting almost 300% of the nitrogen oxide that it's allowed to, and that's scaring me to death.
I just sent an email to people in Harrisburg today to make me smarter on it, because I seriously saw the email for the first time today about the modeling and this, that, and the other thing, and don't understand it well enough. Other than to tell you that I'm aware of it, I'm looking into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you do something about it?
Well, I need to understand it first. I don't know what I need to do. I don't even, somebody perceives this as a problem. One person's perceived problem isn't always a problem. So I just need to get smarter and see what it's really doing and not doing. Who did the modeling, who wrote the article that I read, that I think you read, and yeah, so all I can tell you is I read it and I don't understand it yet, but I'm going to try to understand it.
Is there a way I can follow up with you?
Sure. I mean, you know my email. You've sent me emails before. Yeah. That's, please. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I just read that one this morning for the first time. I had not heard the nitrogen issue before. I've heard lots of issues about compressor stations doing this, that, and the other things, but had not heard the nitrogen issue before. Back to you.
I have a question about the lottery. The governor is trying to privatize this.
He did.
Is it a done deal?
I guess it has to go through, when any state contract gets issued, it has to go through, jump through some hoops and over some fences. But we looked into it. We weren't happy that we didn't get consulted, we being the legislature. Looked into it. The law that established the lottery gave the executive department the authority to operate the lottery. It didn't say it had to be public employees. It didn't say anything. It just said operate a lottery and send all the money to older Pennsylvanians.
Who are the people that operate it now?
The people that operate it now are part of, they're a department of the state government.
What's going to happen to those people?
Don't know. The company who's doing it said they're going to hire a good number of them. They're going to bring in their own management, but they'll probably, because they already know what they're doing, I mean, they're not going to bring in a whole, but there's no guarantee on that, and that wasn't in the contract that those people have to get jobs. We, both the House and Senate, questioned the administration on it after we had determined that they didn't have, the executive department didn't have to ask us permission, that they could just do this. We expressed the idea that we really thought it'd be nice if it had gone a little bit slower, so we'd had time to look at it and ask some questions like you're asking.
I can't believe there's not someone in Pennsylvania that's not smart enough to handle that. Why does it have to go out of contract?
Well, it went out to bid, put out a request for proposals with bid specs. Four different companies bid on it, and the one that had the best deal happened to be from England. None of the employees, this is what they've told us in their testimony, none of the employees will be from England, they'll all be people from the United States. No, I had another phone call about that today. We really would have wished that we'd have been consulted about it, but we were not. What they have in the contract, they have promised that they're going to make more money than we've ever made before, and that'll be better for the programs that goes to. Now, we'll see whether that works or not, if they hold up their contract or not. I don't know anybody that's super happy about it. Even if you agree, and I don't think everybody in the room agrees with it, but even if you agree with the idea that of what government should do and what government should do, and we should privatize things and let private business run things to the extent we can. I don't know that we agree that the lottery was something that needed to be privatized. You know, we can talk about other things that have been privatized and worked well, things that were privatized and didn't work quite so well. So I just wish this one had had a little more time to go through a process where we got to study a little more. But, you know, other governors have contracted out other things without consulting with us, where they have the authority to do that. That's just the way it is.
You don't mind another guest, I just want to comment on what Allison said, maybe
Yeah.
explain something about it. So the DEP permits a certain amount of these NOx to come out of that station, and they come from the engines, the compressor engines, which are natural gas powered. They always say it's natural gas is clean, it's cleaner than diesel, we'll say, for NOx, but it has a problem. So the DEP has a monitoring system in place in one spot in the state where they monitor for NOx, and it's out in western PA. It's in called the Houston Processing Plant, and the Houston Processing Plant runs on electric engines. If they don't burn anything with electric engines, there's no NOx coming out of there. So this is our DEP, and this example of what, you know, I think what we're trying to say about what these people have to go through is that the full weight and power of the governor, the DEP, it's all behind the company. It's all behind the industry, and that, you know, this isn't right, you know, and so we really need you and Gene, which is a joke, but we'd like to have him. You know, you're not. You take it seriously. You listen to people. They need you screaming. I was down in front of Range with 50 people screaming about this and spoke on the Capitol steps about your situation, what we got out of the files. You know, we didn't come and bug you, knocking on your doors, and I wouldn't do that. If you came to me,
I appreciate that.
We'd try to help you, and some people do come to us, you know, but we made it was on PCN, you know, trying to make a speech about Range as a bad actor. I mean, Range has offices here in Williamsport. They buy homes. You know, it's all these big guys, and you didn't even need $1 to run this last time. I'm not impinging your integrity about money. That's nothing to do with it. These guys give you money, but it's not to buy influence. It's just what they do. They give everybody money. I mean, they run the show, and we really need our representatives to just really stick up for these kind of situations, because they're happening all over the state. They really are, and I'm sorry to make comments.
Well said.
Jack, I had another problem today.
You've got lots of problems.
The governor is going to give our wine industry into the big box stores now, like Target and
That one he can't do by himself.
Walmart.
Yeah.
But the problem is the little guys can't afford to go out and buy this wine and stuff to put in their beer distributors, and to sell this beer in these handy markets, it's going to kill the beer distributors.
I heard from Fort today.
Did you?
Just coincidental.
Well, I don't think it's right. They're going to kill the little guys.
It's governor's proposal. We'll see. You know, there was a very similar proposal last session. Didn't have near enough votes for it in the House, and the Senate is in a whole different direction. So it's like a lot of things. You know, it's a proposal. It's got to go through a lot of hoops before it's going over there. Just saw it today for the first time. Just read about it. It's, you know, we'll see what the legislation actually says. It's got to go through a lot of committees. I don't know if it's got the support for it. You know, one of the things that I've said that was pointed out to me is, you know, up here in the middle or the top of the T or wherever we are in Pennsylvania, you know, I get no emails from people saying you need to change the beer and liquor distribution system in Pennsylvania. Zero. Charlie, how many have we ever gotten, you think? Like,
maybe you could count it, since you've been in office,
yeah.
you probably count them in one hand.
Yeah, so it's not something that I'm going to jump on. I'm going to stand by the sidelines and watch how it goes. Because, you know, we grew up here. I mean, we're used to going to the beer distributor. I mean, now when I was in the military for 20 years and I used to come home and I'd been some other state where it was different. And my wife, who also grew up here, but you just get used to where you live, would say, well, you know, let's run down to the grocery store and we'll get a case of beer. No, right? We'll run to the state store, and you're going to picnic, and then we'll go to the grocery store. But we're used to that, you know, it's not any big deal to any of us, you know? And I think things are working kind of nice in rural Pennsylvania. One of the things that was pointed out to me is that if we do jump on the privatization thing, you know, is there going to be a little liquor store next to our Weiss Market here between Muncie and Hughesville, or is that not going to be a big enough market, you know, to do that? And will there be one up in Dewshore, you know? And probably not, you know? So it's like I said, it's one that I don't jump into that one. I'll just kind of watch from the sidelines. Now, I do basically believe that government should not be in a retail business, but to get ourselves out of it in Pennsylvania after we've been in it so long is not easy. And one of the things that I've said, if they want to do the state stores, do the state stores, but they mix the beer people in it, and then it just, you know, and we know these people. I mean, these are mom and pop people that own businesses, and they paid money for their distributorships, and I don't want to see them, you know, get crushed by any, you know, Giant, whether it be Giant or Weiss or, you know, Walmart or whatever. I'm going to watch and see. I think it's going to be tough, you know. The governor's, you know, and you know, the governor's tying education money to it. That's, you know, that's always an attractive thing because we always want to do more for education. But boy, you know, it doesn't know. I don't know if it's worth the effort or not. Thank you, sir.
Stan Kabata.
How you doing, Stan?
Good.
Where you live, Stan? I know.
Outside of Hughesville.
Yeah.
Up in the bush. Do you believe we need a turnpike commission and a Department of Transportation?
I believe we don't need a turnpike commission. We have a Department of Transportation. We need one of those.
Well, but I don't think we need...
There's no doubt that the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation could definitely add another road to its inventory of... Pennsylvania Department of Transportation has more road miles than any other state in the United States, more bridges, more road miles, more everything. You know, they do a pretty good job with it. They're not perfect, but they do a pretty good job with it. And I think they easily handle the turnpike too.
What are we going to do about this?
I've co-sponsored the bill every session I've been there, and I'm co-sponsor again to do away with the Turnpike Commission. Now, that is another issue that's fraught with politics upside down and backwards. The governor gets to appoint people to the Turnpike Commission. The Senate gets to appoint people to the Turnpike Commission. You talk about a den of snakes, that would be the place.
Well,
they have a lot of...
Talk about the problems, that's it. You know,
we don't have
if something needs straightened out...
Stan, if we had the votes...
just sitting back and say, hey...
The Southeast loves the Turnpike Commission. They got the votes. If we had the votes, it'd be gone. And I'm going to try again. That's all I can tell you. Is I'm co-sponsor on the bill, and I will do the best I can to make the Turnpike Commission go away. You've been reading the articles about them lately, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Their expense accounts and their cars. And
yeah.
Nice deal. Nice deal. For a part-time job.
Why don't we make everybody have receipts for per diem and everything else?
We could, we should. One of the things, the reason that I'm told, the reason that we don't do it in the legislature is that the accounting is actually more expensive to go through all the, turning all the receipts in and stuff than it is just to pay us the $52 a day for our per diem. I don't know if that's, you know, what or what. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What do you think of the...
Oh, Stan's got a list. He emailed it to me before, so I know it.
Yeah, there you go. What about the COLA raises? What's your opinion on that?
For anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they should be. I think they should.
Question?
COLA, cost of living raises.
We couldn't hear that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll try to repeat the question like I normally do. Cost of living raises for the legislature shouldn't exist. We get automatic COLA raises. That shouldn't, if we were going to get COLA raises, some independent, agency should look at it and decide whether you know, we need, deserve, and like I said, I think our pay should be reduced anyhow, so you know where I'm at on that. But it should be part-time. You know, I think that a lot of the cost of living raises that go to state workers are part of their collective bargaining agreements. And they were negotiated. I think people should get cost of living raises if, you know, if the cost of living has gone up. Some people have it built into their personal contracts, some people don't. I mean, when you're a private business person, you don't get a COLA. You know, I don't think they should be, definitely do not think they should be automatic, though. They should be looked at by somebody who's independent, and if it's necessary, they should be given. But not automatic. Can Stan get one more question? I'll bring it back to you.
How about this Act 9 where not you, your predecessors, basically give everybody a 50% raise in their pensions? That's why half this trouble is about it. Guys, well, not you, but the predecessors all sat there and said, hey, let's do this, let's do that.
His question is about, back in 2001, there was it was called there's an Act 9 every year, by the way. There's an Act 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, every year, and it gets confusing as heck because if you work in education, there's certain acts that are part of that, and then if you don't, like whoever you do, whatever you do, they'll say, what about Act 44? I'll go, what year? I mean, what is it? What? So anyway, Act 9 in 2001. In 2001, our pension funds in Pennsylvania looked really in good shape. They appeared to actually be overfunded. That's because the stock market had been just smoking right along, everything's doing great, everybody looked fat, dumb, and happy. So the legislature said, rather than establishing a big reserve fund, a rainy day fund, the legislature said, hey, let's just give a little more money to all the retirees, including state legislators. Everybody said, yahoo, let's go. So they did it. Well, then 2002, stock market crash. Then what was the next? When was the next one? It was like, you know, every 3 years from then on, we had a stock market crash. Our pension funds are now, which is the underfunding that we were talking about earlier, and they're underfunded. So, I mean, that's what I said earlier. We can talk about, we can blame that we didn't keep the contribution rates up where we did, that we did this, we did that. How do you go backwards and put a genie back in a bottle? That's the problem. That we're tussling with. That is what we have to address. So, I understand from the folks that were there, it appeared to be, they were told by the actuaries at the pension plans, you can do this, no problem. And we're still going to be good. Over here. I promised one over here. I'll be right back. Sir. Yep.
On your raises in COLA, should that be on the ballot? You know, politicians are working for us.
I agree. I sponsor all those bills that come through about doing all that kind of accountability. Because I agree with you. We work for the people that elect us. And even the people that don't vote, we still work for.
You know, still trying to sneak it through like they did a few years ago.
Yeah, and now, again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I've been co-sponsor every year, every session that I've been there, of a bill that does away with our automatic COLAs, that does away with our automatic pay raises. I don't care if you put it on the ballot, I don't care if you give it to whoever you give it to. It should not be the way it is right now. There's lots of different ways you could do it, but it shouldn't be the way it is right now. Sir?
Yes, back to his point on...
And you have to do the name and everything. I know who you are.
Dick Schuler, Wolf Township.
Yep.
Back to this gentleman's point on the 2001 pension raise to 2.5%. Part of the problem with that was that the school district and the state legislature didn't put in their money.
Right.
Now, I agree with you, but I don't think raising it was a good idea because of our economic setbacks. But the money was never put in. The people, the employees, and the school teachers put their money in.
Agreed.
Nobody else did.
Agreed.
And some people got more than 2.5%.
True.
The legislators, the judiciary, well, they got 3%. That's one hell of an increase in retirement.
I agree with you.
I mean, you know, at 2% with 20 years, basically you get 40%. At 2.5%, and then at 3%, you get 60%.
Right.
Of the average of your highest 3 years. And that is one double increase. And of course, everybody started to retire because it was such a good deal, and that created the drain. And
well,
you're exactly right.
Another thing that, you know, you can go through all this, how we got where we got. You know, another thing that we've allowed to happen, it's not just in the state pension system, and it's not just the state pension systems that are in trouble. We've got some city pension systems that are just in beyond horrible shape. And it's because they let people take out gazillions of dollars on the way out, rather than waiting to get it all in their pension, and still got a small pension at the same time, and that just cripples the pension fund when you let them pull it all out at one time. So there's been a number of ills that cranked us into where we are, but I mean, I don't have a time machine, can't go back and undo any of that stuff that was done. We can only live in the today and try to get ourselves back on the right financial track so that the pensions, what are you waving about?
Comment.
Oh.
Act 140, 2010.
2010.
Moved for new hires.
We moved back.
We moved back to the 2%, and that actually even included anybody that's been elected to the legislature from 2010 forward is in the same exact pay pension groups as the state employees in the.
And that does that. We did that, but that again, that was one of the things that I called a Band-Aid. I mean, it was good, but it's not. It didn't solve the problem. It stopped the bleeding from being as bad, but we still have the big problem of the underfunding for a long time.